our camera feeds, and we have the sound now. Hey guys, welcome to this tutorial where we are going through and recreating Five Nights at Freddy's in Unity 3D, and we are providing all the assets for you for free, and you can do it yourself. You can make the complete game with all of the game's features that we include here, all from free assets. And in the first tutorial we are going to set up cameras so that we can switch in between cameras and set up our environment for the control room or the home base. And this is what it will look like after we complete it today. We will have our camera mapping at the bottom right, and we will have cameras that switch when you click on the buttons with a little sound effect in between those. We will keep making these tutorials until we complete all the features, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future tutorials. And let's jump into this and start from scratch. Here we have an empty scene. We'll be starting this completely from scratch and using a level that I pulled off of the Unity Asset Store from one of their tutorials. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into my prefabs folder and bring out the map that we have, and we're going to use this environment. You can see we have a lighted area with a bunch of different rooms that we can use with cameras, and show you the elements that we'll be using from the game Five Nights at Freddy's. We are going to use this as the base or the control room, and then there's a door here so we can have that door open and close. So first we're going to set up our main camera in that room so we can see that room with our main camera. So I have my main camera, we're going to drag it into that room, and you'll see our camera preview window down here. So we want to be able to see both the TV on the side as if it were the TV monitors that we'll be looking at, and the door on the left side which we'll have open, and we can flick on and off a light over there like in the real game. So let's put our first camera there and let's rotate it down so the side of that door will be right on our left side view. And I'm going to move down the perspective of the camera so the left hand side doesn't curve as much in our scene. This will be the view of our main office or the control room, and we have a lot of light in the scene, and if you click play you can see the scene as you will see it through the camera. So we have our home view here, and it's pretty light. There's a lot of lights being added to the scene. We're going to turn down the directional light if you go into your hierarchy tab and find intensity in the settings and turn that down to 0.2, and that will play into the mood of the environment a little more. So we can turn that down more later to make it more dark. For now, just for simplicity of building the environment, let's keep it right there. And the next thing I'm going to do is add 2 more cameras. So in the hierarchy tab I'm going to create an empty object and call this cameras, so I have a place to put all of the cameras I'm going to be using, and drag the main camera into that folder or that empty object, and you can duplicate the camera we have. Let's build 2 more cameras, and we're going to call this one North Hallway Camera, and for the other one we will call it South Hallway Camera. And we want to move these outside to where we want to view the scene. In the editor I'm going to drag one of the cameras over into the hallway, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit just because I think it adds a good effect, and put it over like it's on the wall here. So right there is good, and do the same thing with the other camera facing the opposite direction. I put this out in the hallway and move it to the other side, and let's flip the rotation on that, and this will be right here. And these lasers are kind of in the way, so I'm going to disable all of the laser gates. We have them here. If you expand the map object you can find the laser gates, and just click on the enable to disable them. So now we have 2 cameras outside of the door of the control room that we're using, and we have our main camera. Next thing I want to do is add effects to the cameras so it looks like a feed from a low quality camera, so it will be black and white and a little fuzzy, and we can do that using some effects that Unity gives us already. So if you go in to standard assets down in the project finder and effects, then go to image effects and scripts, and you'll find 2 that we're going to use on each of the hallway cameras. We're not going to use it on the main camera because that is where the player is going to be, so you don't want any blur or color distortion there, but on the other 2 cameras we're going to use both grayscale to make them black and white, so you can drag them right onto the objects in the hierarchy window. Do that for both the north and south camera. And we're also going to use noise and grain. This will make the picture really grainy and noisy, as the title suggests. So if you click on the cameras, let's turn the noise up on the scripts. So down in the script, it will say intensity multiplier, turn that up to 2 on both the north hallway and the south hallway cameras. So we have 3 cameras here, and you might be confused at which one it would draw. And the way that it knows which one to draw is by the depth field on the camera. It draws the highest number first. So if we wanted to look at the south hallway camera, we would change the depth to 10. And now you can see the south hallway camera right here. You can see the grayscale and the grain. So if we press play, it looks like the feed of a crappy camera. So now we need an interface so that we can switch in between the cameras from the home control center. So with that, we are going to create a UI system that maps out the cameras, and you can click on each one just like at the regular FNAF game. So for that, I'm going to add a UI button, and this will create a canvas for us, which is kind of the background for any UI elements that we use. So to see this, we can go into our scene and click the 2D button right under the console button, and if you zoom way out, you can see the canvas that shows our button in the left hand corner. So now we can do whatever we want inside of this canvas, and it will show on top of our camera screen. So if we move the button to the bottom corner, it will show that in our game screen. So let's make 3 buttons, one for the control center, one for the north hallway, and one for the south hallway. And first I'm going to modify the button width and height a little bit so it looks a little better in the game. So I'm going to put a width of 80 and a height of 60. And now I am going to duplicate that twice, so we have 3 buttons. And I'm going to rename the main button control room button, and the other ones I'm going to rename north hallway button and south hallway button. So now we have our 3 buttons, and the layout of our map is going to match the layout of our buttons on the screen. So the north hallway I'm going to put on the side of our control room, and the south hallway below that. And to change the text of a button, if you expand that button in the hierarchy, there will be a text field, and just name it like we have control room, north hallway, south hallway. Let's line those up. And we want to move the anchor to the bottom right hand corner so that the buttons will always be tied to the bottom right hand corner no matter how big the screen is. And to do that, you click the Rec Transform logo and click the bottom right hand. You can see bottom right, and do this for each of the 3 buttons. I want to make them look a little better, so in the north and south hallway, to differentiate them from the control room, I'm going to click the fill center button in the image script. That will take away the fill, and it will allow us to see past these buttons when we're looking through the cameras, since they will be on the screen. And for these, let's make the color white. We can see it on the screen when we're looking through our cameras. So now we have 2 buttons and the control room button, and we need to script the game and tell it which camera to show when we do certain things. So now we are going to go and create a script to do this. So to create our script, if we are in the project folder, right click in the empty space and go to create. I'm going to do a C# script. I'm going to name it camera script. And we have our empty script here, and we're going to be using elements of the UI. So we need to type using unityengine.ui to the top. And we will want references to the cameras and the buttons in this script. So I'm going to make a public variable array of cameras, and you do that with brackets. I'll name that cams, and then I want references to each of the cameras in our scene. So I'm going to use control room camera as one, and copy and paste that, and then we are going to do the north and south hallways, and then we will want references to our buttons. So let's do public button, control room button, and do that for all 3. North hallway and south hallway button. And then we'll also have a sound in between switching from cameras, so it gives us kind of a static sound like a static TV. So we will need a reference to the audio source. So I'm going to create an audio source reference and name that static sound. And then in the start function, I am going to add an audio source to the cameras that we put the script on, so I'm going to assign the static sound to the component. So just do find object of type audio source, and it will automatically assign that instance of the object to our variable. And now I'm going to create a new function. I can get rid of this update function, I don't need it. Public void, public because we want to be able to access it outside of this script. Call this on cam button click. And this is going to take a string so we know which button is pressed, and we can change the video feed of whichever button that is. So before I talked about the depth of the cameras, and that is what determines which camera will be displayed on the screen at one time. So we're going to use that depth and change it depending on which button we press so that it will change the screen. So first I'm going to set all the depths of all the cameras down to the same level, and then set one of the camera's depth higher than that so it will display that camera only. So the first thing I'm going to do is for each camera cam in cams, which will cycle through all the cameras that we put inside of this array right here. And we are going to do cam.depth and set it to -10. Now we're going to make an if statement to say if which button is equal to control room button, then we want to set the depth of the control room camera to a level that's higher than -10. So we have our reference above to the control room camera, and we're going to set the depth to set it to 10. And we want to do this for each of the 3 cameras that we have, so I'm going to copy and paste that, and we can put an else if for the next one so it doesn't iterate through each of them every time. And so now we will have the north hallway button. We can set the north hallway camera depth to 10, and the same for south hallway camera to 10. Now we have a script that should cycle through each of the cameras when we click on them. So now we need to assign our script into an element in our game, and I'm going to drag it on to the cameras folder. So that element will be added to the cameras folder, and you can see all of our references here that we need to assign. Fill those in with the cameras and the buttons. The main camera is our control room camera. You can rename that if you need to, and just drag each of them into the correct place. And then we need all of our cameras into our cams array. So each of the 3 into this variable, and you'll see the size 3 after that. So now we need to tell the buttons to run that function when it's clicked. So if you click on any of the buttons, I clicked on the control room button and go down to the button script at the very bottom, there is an on click function window. And if you click the plus, it will allow you to set the button click to a function. We need a reference to the cameras because that script is what has the function that we want to call. So I'm going to drag that camera into the object, and now we should be able to access the script that's on the camera. So you see the camera script, and you should see the on cam button click. So click that, and remember it takes a string. So this was control room button, and do that for each of the 3 buttons. And this one would be the north hallway button and the south hallway button. So now it is going to run that function every time that we click any of these buttons. So now if we click play in our scene, the cameras should switch in between each other. So we click the control room, it stays here. Click the north hallway, it goes to that camera, and the south hallway faces that direction. So now I'm going to add a sound in between the button clicks, so it gives the effect of a static sound. And I have a sound called static, and you can hear it. It's just a quick static sound, and that will play in between switching cameras. So first for that, we want to create an audio source, and I'm going to do this on the camera's empty object. If you click add component and search audio, you can find audio source, and then the clip that we want is the static sound, so you can drag that into the audio clip and then click play on awake so it doesn't play right when you hit play on the game. And now we want to go back to our script and tell it when to play this sound. So we have our reference to our static sound already, and on the button cam click we want to play that sound, so we are going to put static sound.play. That's all we need to do. That'll play each time a button is clicked and this function is called. But we don't want to play this when we're going back to the control room because we're not really watching a TV feed from that. So I'm going to put an if statement and say if which button does not equal control room button. And this will play when we click on the north or south hallway and any other cameras that we add later. So if we click save there and click play on the game, then we see our camera feeds and we have the sound now. And when we click control room, it should not have the sound. So we can add more cameras into the scene wherever we want to add them, and I'm going to do that for the next video. But now you know how to add a camera and how to switch to that camera in the game. In the next tutorial we will continue making this game until we have a complete game project that we can play. If you have any suggestions on which feature we should implement next, just let us know in the comments below. And also if you want to add any features that you think would be cool in a FNAF game or you thought would be better to make the game more scary, then let us know in the comments and we will put in your guys' suggestions as well. So make sure to subscribe to us so you catch the complete series. We'll continue making these videos if you guys like them. And all the download links are below in the description, so make sure you like and subscribe. We hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.